Okay, hello and welcome to today's session. As usual, we will be trading the DAX today. I won't be trading an Apex Trader funding account today. I've actually got an FTMO account, so I'll be using that one today. Be using the order flow to determine entries and exits as we go during the early parts of the session, but also in conjunction with the pivot points over here on the CFD chart. So basically using pivot points and Bollinger Bands to determine likely rejection points, coupled with the actual order flow and data information that will kind of indicate whether we go long or short, and at what point, basically once the market starts to move and the bigger players start to interact at certain prices, that gives us clues as to where we want to actually enter the market. So we've got 8 minutes till the open. I'll run through some quick analysis. We've got the FDAX here, the full contract order flow, and then down here we've got the mini DAX as well, so FDAX M, and the current contract or quarterly contract is Z5. Over on the CFD charts, so up near the R2, we've also got the pivot from the previous day around the same pricing area, along with a bit of pricing activity back here where the market fell down. Yesterday we kind of saw very bearish movement. Didn't quite get to the S3 or the close gap. So we'll see what today brings, but basically we'll be looking for, I guess, a spike up to the R2 followed by a target of the previous day's high and the close gap. It looks like we eventually did reach the previous day's low yesterday, so that extreme gap eventually filled, but it took basically the entire session. I'm not sure if that's even in the market hours. We do have the previous day's close up here as well, so there is a potential that these two price points are unfilled gaps, but obviously if price opens up above that point, they're effectively filled. We do have an extreme gap down to the downside now though, if we open above this structure here, meaning that we'll potentially target that high and the close. We may even get all the way down to this confluence down here where we've got a breakout short and an S1 level. So as usual, basically expecting a push up into the R2 and perhaps a rejection. If we do get all the way up to the R3, even better. I'll go and do a multiple time frame analysis now. So monthly, it's quite bearish. Very similar on the weekly, starting to kind of slow down on that momentum. Basically, we recovered the last 1, 2, and then this week as well, we've kind of recovered any downward movement that has occurred, and we're basically just forming wicks at this point. Whether that's just the market soaking up all of the buyers or the market is turning around, I'm not sure which one, but basically the selling off point is slowing down as we head down towards this close gap or the unfilled gap from quite some time ago. We've also got the yearly R2 level way down here, so nothing to worry about right now. So we'll go down to the daily chart now, see if we can identify anything of use. Not particularly, we're kind of in the middle of this range at the moment. So we've got pricing above and below, so nothing really that we can kind of use at this point. Have a look at the 4 hourly, very wide on the Bollinger Bands for the 4 hour. Particularly because of this massive downward movement some time ago. Again, nothing too much. We're kind of towards the high, perhaps trending downwards from this point to this point. May kind of come up, maybe overextend this R2 for another, like I guess a triple tap of that trend line, but nothing too powerful there. Very similar on the H1. We've got a bit of price activity but nothing much there either. With the M30, we are heading towards the top or the upper band, the Bollinger Band, so hopefully if we do break out of that quite quickly, the market might reject off that R2 a little bit better because of that Bollinger Band position there. But it's not super strong. We're not going to be massively outside of it if we do get up to this R2. If we get up to the R3, very different story. But we've got to wait and see what the market gives us. M15, we're already outside the upper band, so that's positive for any short positions. And the M5 will have to, I guess, break out of the up to the R2 to actually get outside of that upper band. Looks like a lot of ask side orders coming through now. Perhaps limit orders pushing the market lower. There's not too much selling going on this particular candle for the first 2 minutes, but we are kind of moving. So the market's shifting lower. Just waiting for the next 3 minutes basically until the market opens before we make an actual decision. But jumping in early, basically we want to... Good morning, Treklord. Thanks for coming back. Basically just looking to identify opportunities in the market before it heats up so that when it starts to move very quickly, we can identify what's actually going on. I'm just going to bring up the US 30. We've got a couple of minute and a half, 2 minutes and a half. I'll see if I can bring up the US 30. Because what happened yesterday, we came down at around the open of the DAX time. We basically tapped the S1 and breakout short level. So I'll just see if I can zoom in a little bit more on that. Where are we? Here we are. So here's what happened yesterday. We tapped. 20 minutes in, we eventually got down to the S1, looking at about 6 points overshoot of that level. So very minimal really on the US market with the US 30. And we had a retracement of that downward move for about 80 odd points. So massive movement there off these levels in the DAX session. And then again, we kind of had a pincer set up on these candles right near that yearly R1 level. So we came within, I guess, 8 or 9 points of that yearly level. So really good, strong response from that yearly level, kind of forming a pincer on the candles to then basically see a rally for the rest of the day. So that was kind of at the open, 5 minutes after the open, and then kind of bottomed out and then just had a powerful move for about 380 points. So massive kind of movement there. So I think it's probably always good for me to go and check the other markets. Very good movements on the FTSE as well. I'll just move that setting that pulls me to the front. We've got 30 seconds to go on the DAX, but basically very good movement on the UK, very responsive to the pivot and the S1. Really stayed in that range for some time before kind of breaking long. So I'm going to try and use the other markets as well, just to determine and see if there's anything going on those markets. If I'm not seeing anything on the DAX, I'll flick between the UK, have a look at the US, and even sometimes the Japanese Nikkei can give us some indication because it's always running basically. Moving down heftily, hopefully we'll target this high. Perhaps we might get a bit of a rejection up to the R2 at some point, but this might be going all the way straight down to our high and close potentially. Might get a bit of a pullback off this breakout long to bring us up to this R2, allowing people to get in short potentially. We've just got to see what the market gives us, because there's a lot of ask orders coming in here. Quite a bit of aggressive selling, but that looks like aggressive buying as well. So potentially funds, putting in orders that they have to have. And if we get okay, that's only 9 contracts. If we get a bit more of an indication that the market is going to go long, I've got my FTMO. It's just a 10K. I'll be looking to buy the market if I see the opportunity arise. The volume didn't really show it, but it kind of moved quite quickly. I'm hoping for a bit more of a reaction there than what we just saw. Yeah, we saw the US kind of power up quite heftily overnight. So yeah, hopefully the global markets will rebalance and will kind of fill that gap. About 7 points away. Look, I don't particularly see that as being filled. Still 7 points away, and then we've got this close gap down here as well. Just something to note. So I've just closed that position just for the moment on my FTMO. I think I got out 1 cent in profit. I hit the button a little bit too late, and I was sitting at break even. So I'll just get out of that and wait for the order flow to bring me in and show me what's actually going on. So we're at that point where it kind of hovers around. If we do get up to this R2, you know, there might be a selling opportunity. If we do come right back down to even just say the high and get a big order down here, either on the bid or the ask, I think will kind of suffice. It's got to be bigger than the rest of the order above it though. So if we get an 11 a little bit lower, that's not quite enough to make me think we're going to turn around. So I've just got my finger on the trigger here for the FTMO account. It is just off screen just because I've got a couple of screens. I can't kind of have all of it showing all at once. Hopefully that's aggressive selling there. You know, we want to get a better opportunity to get in if we're going to go long. I don't want to do it from here, particularly because I think we may come down and hit this high, and then we've still got this closed target. So again, this is where patience really pays off, and also being quick. So not only being patient, but also being very fast when the market says it's time to go. Looks like aggressive selling. You know, the market pushes down quite quickly, which is a good sign, and we just have to wait for the right price. That's what I'm doing anyway. So just looking for the right price to get in. Very nice trading though, if you're able to click the button at the right time near that high connection. That would have been an excellent trade, but the market moved very quick. So by the time I hit it, it sort of was around this mid-band. Kind of drifting up. Looks like it's just kind of getting soaked up for the moment. No particular direction at this rate. How are you going? Trek Lord, anyway, how's your trading? The FTMO, so this isn't an FTMO account. It's off screen, but basically it looks exactly like this CFD chart in essence. They're CFDs, and they are actually open to US now as well. So they banned US for a little while because of MetaQuotes, an issue that they had there. They've now, I guess, set up the right structure to be able to trade in the US. So basically, it's a lot more accessible now. And I actually like FTMO because you can trade the DAX. So you've got the German 40. There's a new candle formed, a bit of selling going on, but it doesn't look very decisive just yet. There's very thin order flows coming through. There's more contracts on the smaller one, but we'll just see if we get some more sellers come in, get us into a better spot to hit that buy button. So just was watching the account there, just waiting for the market to kind of get a bit more decisive. You know, I don't like it when we're hovering in between these levels. I like it when there's a big impulsive move in a certain direction to take us into the market. So I'm just going to pop my stops in at break even. I find the MT5 a lot easier to deal with. So on the FTMO, I use the MT5 platform. I find it so much easier to actually use than the depth of market and the order flow. And I trade a little bit more like on a slower pace kind of style. So I'm not looking to get in and out super quick, simply because the trailing max drawdown doesn't actually play a part in the FTMO. So you can just place your trade. If you're in profit, you're in profit. It's not going to come down and stop you out even if you're in break even. Here's a nice move up. So I had a buy order on, but I didn't. I'm out now just for a little tiny hit, just because I'm not that confident with the position of the market there. It still feels like it's deciding what direction to go. So yeah, FTMO, it's a CFD account. So the difference between, I guess, Forex, which is foreign exchange, and so Forex, effectively you can trade Forex with CFDs or futures, but FTMO doesn't limit you just to Forex. So it's a CFD provider or contract for difference, and basically they've got access to German 40s, so your index markets, the Nikkei, gold, silver, oil. I think they might even have cryptocurrency on there. So it's a CFD rather than a Forex focus. So contract for difference, which covers a lot more markets than just your AUD, USD, that kind of thing. There is a link in the description to go and get an account. I think they're actually offering 15 or 20% off at the moment on a certain account type. So if you click the link in the description, it should give you that access when you get in there to be able to get the discounted code. It's really hovering around in the middle of nowhere. We're not heading towards the R2. We're not heading towards that close gap. It looks like it's just kind of soaking up traders, and nobody has complete control. And these are the days that are, when it's not so decisive, it can capture people that just want to get in, and then it'll whip in an unknown direction, and it's quite frustrating. So I personally like the days when it's very clear what's going on. It's very impulsive. So let's say we whipped up right up to this R2 very quickly, and then you could see the market starting to form a wick, and then we'd head down to hit this high or close. Those are the trading days that you hang in there for, and keep your capital safe until those moments arise when you can really actually see definitively what's going on, and then obviously when the order flow shows you what's going on as well. So we haven't had in the order flow a really massive indication that we're picking a certain direction. So the 17 up here was somewhat of a indication, but that was in the pre-market. So while the market's been open, there hasn't been a big order come in at the high or low at any point. We're kind of trading in the middle of nowhere. So it's a little bit frustrating, a little bit boring as well. The market's just pushed up, so we've had some bidders come in. Look, I can't really pick a direction. The market does generally have a long bias, which is, buying the index. You're essentially betting on the people rather than against them. But there is this target of the high extreme gap and the previous day's close gap, which I would be concerned that we will come down and touch at some point. So getting long from this point is something that would concern me. but that's not to say it's not going to just power up, because that's often what the DAX does. And on the basis of the weekly chart, we've had a really strong dip down, and now it's like the sellers are slowing down, and yeah, we might be in for a more bullish run sooner than we think. So that is going up. We've got 12 contracts here. That indicates that it's probably aggressive selling from this level, but it's only 12 contracts, and then you've got 7, 6, 7 that could be limit orders, but you know, it's not really definitive. It's only small contracts, so it's not a massive order saying, right, this is the top. So just watching it play out, waiting for a better price point. And that's the thing with trading. You can't just be in the market all the time. You know, that you're basically just waiting for the market to set you up with a really good position, and then you'll get paid for your patience. We've got 10 contracts up here. I think hopefully we will bypass this little area and maybe get a lot more. There we go, 11, 12. Hopefully we get a little bit further. That might be enough to start the selling cycle. But ideally we'll go a bit higher than this. Now, I think previously I got sucked in a little bit early. I saw this kind of reaction and I got in, but I didn't wait for this level, the R2, to be hit. I like the look of this thin order flow followed by this kind of activity up here where there's more orders. You've got the ask limit order all on this one price, followed by aggressive bid side selling. You know, people are tapping the market. I want to get in short now, is basically what they're thinking, and that's pushed the market down. But previously, I think a week or two ago, I got in at that sort of activity. I held for a little bit. I didn't get out at this kind of point, and it went up above the R2. So eventually it came back down, but I just didn't want to get in for that reason, because I have recently seen the market basically ignore that kind of activity. Just while we wait for the market to kind of do something on the DAX, I'll go and check these other markets. So we've had the UK has tapped the R2. So I'd imagine we may come down from that point, unless it's going to shoot up through up to the R3, for example. It's just good to know these things. We've got the ASX kind of hovering on a triple band here. So it looks like it filled the gap, came up, touched the R2, and now it's kind of hovering around that upper level. What have we got on the US? Not much movement on the US at the moment, so very different to yesterday's activity. And the Nikkei, nothing much either. So very, I guess, slow and steady activity here. We are coming back up to that point where I might have been tempted to get in on the basis of the volume alone. But ideally, we'll push up a little bit higher and get a better entry here, confirmed by this pivot point. But also, hopefully we'll see a bit more order flow come through at the levels we want to see it at, and not earlier. So just waiting it out. Trekler, do you use FTMO or like the CFD providers at all, or are you purely a futures trader? So we've got the wick there, big sort of an aggressive sell contract by the looks. See if that holds up. It's very thin volume here, so there's price points that aren't getting hit at all. So it's like nobody's really trading today. I wonder what's going on. It's the 23rd. Basically just not really much happening at all on these markets today. So I might call it there shortly unless something starts to really hype up. My ideal situation is we get a big impulsive move all in one hit up to this R2. We see some activity on the ask side, like similar to what we've had here. So a big ask order all on one price at the highest price, and it doesn't get through, followed by aggressive selling on the bid side. So people on the depth of market, they would be hitting on the ask side. They would be clicking here to connect straight onto the market order to then be in a sell position. So they'd connect with this bid order to push the market down effectively. That's what I'd be looking for. But given the market's been a little bit kind of not as volatile as I would expect. Look at that, such thin volume here. So basically the market, nobody's really happy trading at these price points, and somebody's looking for a better position to get in. Instant funding, yeah, I like the instant funding ones. I did one with StockNet Institute for a while. I don't know if they're still operating, but yeah, do you have any preferred providers with those? I'll go and check them out. Tradovate, I think, looked a bit expensive, and you've got to hit that profit target. Okay, we're starting to see that activity. Now what we want to see is a really big ask order up a little bit higher, followed by aggressive selling. And that would indicate to me that perhaps we have sellers coming in to turn the market around. Alternatively, it may break through this level and just continue on, but we're just waiting for that order flow to tell us. So very much like this. This looks like people are wanting to sell, but this is on the mini contracts. Ideally, it would happen on the full contracts, because that's where the big money is. So we want to see what the big players are looking to do. It looks like it's kind of taken off from that point. So unless we get back up there and we see what we're looking for, it's almost like they've hidden all their orders down here in the mini DAX. 11 followed by 8 and then 7. It's not quite what I'm looking for. So perhaps that isn't the move just yet. Maybe that was a little fake out. We'll come a little bit higher, but perhaps not. So I'll be tempted, Tradovate, as well, to look at the instant funding on Tradovate at some point in the future. Once you get that $1,000, it seems so much easier, rather than having to do it twice. You can take your time with it, knowing that you'll get paid out if you've made the money. Whereas I guess with Apex and even FTMO, you make the money and then you've got to make it again. So it makes it a little bit frustrating. Perfect. I'll let you know. I'll send you an email, actually. I've got your email, so I'll send you an email once it's time to give the Tradovate a go. On the CFD charts, this would be a point where I'd say, okay, look, this might be a time to sell. But because I've got access to this order flow, it is selling off, but it's not as convincing just at the moment. So sometimes maybe the order flow it can kind of cloud your judgment unless you've got a really definitive order. Coming through. So a lot more selling here I've got 8 contracts there. Hopefully that's a buyer to push us back up. We'll see how it goes. That looks like it's very hard to tell what's going on. So we kind of broke the Bollinger Band here. It's 22 contracts. Is that going to turn us back around? Yeah, there's somebody here that's potentially just bought aggressively. So they've clicked on this side to hit the ask side and take them in for 24 contracts, which is a lot more volume than we've kind of seen so far. Yeah, for the entire session. So that's the biggest order at the moment in one hit. So I'm hoping that will push the market up a little bit higher so we get a better entry to go short. But perhaps we're just going to go down 25, 11. It can take a while for these things to fulfill as well. So that's the patience game. My ideal situation for today is probably we pump up, go up to this R2, reject right off it, go all the way down to even the S1, and then looking for buyers off the S1 or perhaps even the pivot, depending on the order flow. Yeah, I'd love for a big bullish day. Just have concern about the higher gap, the extreme gap here, and then the close. If we fill those, I'd be looking to get in, particularly because of the US. Yesterday it had a really bullish run. Were you in on that one yesterday? I guess at the open it really powered up. Yeah, very frustrating for, it's not the best trading conditions. But just got to be patient, I guess. And I think because of this weekly, it's really slowing down. Unless we get some sort of an event, we may be turning back up now. It's really hovering on this this big contract here, so 27. I don't want to get in either direction at this point. Just hoping the market sort of moves in a particular direction so that the risk reward is a little bit more fulfilling. The volatility seems to have really dried up these last couple of days, so it makes for quite boring trading, but every day you come back, you watch, you just wait and hope it goes in the correct direction. Very slim trading. There's not much order flow coming through. Here we go. Thin capitalization down here. If it gets right down to perhaps the previous day's high, or even these wicks down here, just looking for indications that there's a big order coming through. And again, still very thin. One contract. We've got 4 there, telling me that there may be buying coming in, but still it's not quite what I'm after. Yeah, it's so frustrating when you miss a trade, and then I often want to get in even though it's too late, but it's like working on your patience and coming back the next day waiting for that opportunity. It's very difficult to not get frustrated. Looks like sellers are coming in a little bit stronger now. If we can push past this level, kind of fighting it out. There's a bit more aggression in the markets now, a bit more order flow either side. Just really need to get into a better position. So the price point where we're at right now, we could go down to the high, or we could be going up to the R2. So either direction, it's basically 1-to-1 risk reward, but kind of 50-50. So it's not worth the risk at all for me to get in either direction. For me, it's really about waiting for the right price, waiting for the evidence to say, okay, we're in. And the market's really keen to go in a particular direction. And we just haven't really seen that in the order flow or the pivot points at the moment. So it's kind of beating around the bush. We didn't quite fill this extreme gap, I feel. It was about 7 points. Some people might consider that filled in the market open time, but it's not. It's a little bit subjective on that one. Just have a look at the other markets while we wait for this order flow to figure out what it's doing. Just very little movement. The US is hanging in this range. Had a bit of bouncing around, but that's very little volume. I guess very little movement or volatility. So we had maybe 20 points total movement on the UK or the FTSE. So yeah, very slow day. There's not much trading going on at all. But if we do get up to a certain level and it looks good and there's a lot of volume come in all at once, perhaps the bigger players are waiting for the proper level to be reached as well before they start getting in. So they're being patient. They're waiting for the right price, waiting for that indication to say the market's going to move in a particular direction. Because right now, it's very in the middle of nowhere. You might get some range-bound trading if you buy and sell within these candlesticks up and down, but I think the risk reward for me in that situation isn't really worth it, because generally, you get one wrong move and wipes out all your efforts in between. So I'd rather wait for a more definitive situation. And if you are in this session and you enjoy the session, you like what's going on, do feel free to give me a like. It does make sure that I keep coming back, and these sessions are appreciated or valued in some sort of manner. If you do see value in them, that's great. Exactly, if we came down and tapped the close gap, for example, and then had that pincer that we had on the US 30, see if I can zoom in. It's just a perfect setup. So it's about 5 minutes after the US Open, about 3 points between that yearly R1 level. So that yearly pivot point based on last year's high, low and close. Within 3 points of that yearly level, I'll see if I can zoom out. So it's that one there, that yearly level. Came very close to it and just had a massive turnaround right near the open for about, I think it was 300 points. Let's see if I can zoom in and figure out what's going on. So from here to up here, 380 points. It's massive. We'll go back to the DAX, just see if we've got anything going on. Still very thin, still ranging within these levels. It's like nobody wants to really have a go at the moment. It's just perhaps waiting for a later point. I think people might be concerned. They think the market's going to go up, but they're waiting for these gaps to be filled first before they start putting their orders in. So any viewers as well, if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat box. I may have one free account still available with Apex Trader Funding. If anybody does want a free challenge and evaluation, any size, so up to 300k, any platform, so Tradovate, Wealth Charts, or Rhythmic, feel free to let me know in the chat. Just have a bit of back and forth with me, and I'll be able to tell you how to claim that prize. I think I've got one left, so just let me know if you do want a free account. Get in quick. There's a few people there that might want it, but just type in the chat box, let me know you want it. And so Treklord's already won an account. There's 9 other winners throughout the last probably 3 weeks, but I still do have one account left if you do want a free one. So it's just 1 month for free, but it's an evaluation of any size. Lets you have a go at trading the futures. So I personally prefer the Tradovate platform when it comes to Apex Trader Funding, but with FTMO I'm using the MT5. Getting a bit more volume here, so we've got 11 contracts, starting to push up a little bit higher. If we get really thin order flow to take us right up to that R1, followed by a big order on the ask side, that's what will trigger me in. Just at this point, not really much going on at all. Just waiting for the market to kind of do its thing, but that's trading. It's all about being patient, waiting for your price, listening to your analysis that you make in the pre-market, rather than just having a go just because the market's in existence. You just want to wait for the right price. 1800 drawdown. Okay, that's pretty good. On a, what size account is that? Must be a 50k, is it? And again, it's just not getting up to the price points that we need it to get up to. It plays on your mind, I think, the Apex with that trailing drawdown, because it's changing every day. It changes every trade. I think I've only passed the Apex a couple of times, maybe like 2 or 3 times, but I've passed the FTMO quite a bit more and got to payout stage. So yeah, I thought so. Oh, that's still quite good. Bit of room to play. And how do you go trading? Are you trading multiple prop firms at once? Are you? I find it quite hard to focus on multiple platforms at once. Trying to follow each account. Flicking back and forth, and then making sure you're not in any orders that shouldn't be there. This market's still hovering around. It's not the best trading day, just yet anyway. So really waiting for a proper indication. In fact, the FDAX Mini has had a bit more of an indication that we were going short off that high compared to the full contracts. So sometimes the FDAX Mini does show a bit more information or intel, and even here, so we had the 12 contracts, it stood out a little bit more than this candle up on the full futures contracts. So yeah, sometimes it sort of has more sway, particularly if there's not many traders on the full index, the bigger players. Sometimes the FDAX Mini might have a bit more control. Orders kind of going everywhere. We've got a new candle. It's 35 minutes into the session. Bit of buying coming in. If we can get a bit more power behind it. Just need to boost up. And then we've got 13 contracts there. So that looks to me like aggressive selling coming in. But it's not at the level we want to see it at. I almost feel like these sellers are getting absorbed by the buyers and they're not having enough control to push the market lower. So potentially the market will slowly drift higher. We'll see. Yeah, nice. It is good to have a few accounts to kind of take the pressure off a single account too, I guess. 12 contracts there. On the ask side, could be quite a good limit order to say we're going down. Or it could be aggressive buying, but I'm not too sure about that. We're kind of just hovering at this point. We haven't rejected off that level, so it's not a massive indication triggering people to sell off just yet. And often, you know, we might kind of get soaked into a trade here because of this order flow, and then it'll just pop up and actually touch the level and perhaps go beyond. So it's almost like it's coaxing people into the market a little bit early before that level's reached. Or if it does work, you'll be more inclined to get in early next time, and then the market will just pop up higher. So you've got to be really careful with getting into trades early. It's something that gets me quite a bit. I often get in a little bit too early and then end up sitting in a little bit of drawdown for longer than I should. So it's quite frustrating when that does happen. It looks like maybe we're getting some buyers to try and push it up. Love to see some really thin volume just above this price point, and then I'll start looking for short orders potentially. Didn't quite get there. And the market's pulled away, so bit of a boring day on the markets. Didn't really hit the price points we needed to get in decisively, and didn't quite get down to the previous day's high so that we could get long. I did get long a little bit, but it was too late. This action was very quick. By the time I hit the button on my FTMO account, it was kind of in the middle of nowhere. Took, I guess, a tiny little bit of profit, but nothing to talk about basically. And then from that point, the market's kind of just hovering around. Haven't seen any sort of volatility that would be hoping for to get into a really good trade. For those of you who have joined a bit later, looking to target this high or close, so extreme gap, and then unfilled gap down here. If we touch this R2 first though, so ideally I'd be looking to push up, get a nice strong rejection to indicate that we are heading down. At the moment, we kind of just seem to be soaking up any sellers to push the market slowly higher. And it's just not definitive enough for me to want to get in from these levels. So probably going to call the session there. No, this is, I guess, just a bit of a hobby, trying to pass FTMO and Apex Trader funding accounts, and just sharing my experience as I go along with the order flow and the pivot points. So kind of just sharing the experience, sharing what I see in the markets, and then allowing a bit of back and forth in the chat as well, so we can have a bit of a community when the DAX opens each day. Really hovering around, just hoping. Okay, this is the kind of activity I'm hoping for. Bit of aggressive selling there. We just needed to kind of poke up a little bit higher. Some more volume coming in. The DAX kind of, it was just perma bullish last year. It looked like it was going to turn around at multiple occasions, and then the DAX, basically it just kept going long. irrespective of levels, irrespective of the economy over there, irrespective of other indices as well. So it was quite a tough market for anybody that does look for short opportunities, but excellent for those who just are able to get in at the highs and go long. And particularly if you sort of bought blind, you would have been doing very, very well. I was expecting the market to drop because often once it goes outside the weekly Bollinger Band and turns back around, you're looking at some serious selling to come in, but it just didn't happen. It just powered up. Even when, so for example, the US 30 had pullbacks, the Nikkei had pullbacks, even the FTSE, so they're very closely correlated because they're on the same session, kind of in the same region as well, geographically. And even when the FTSE had pullbacks, the DAX just powered on through last year. So it's quite interesting, it's very easy, I guess, if you just blind buy at the open, you probably would have passed FTMOs quite frequently just doing that. Okay, now that's what we're looking for, 53 contracts. So that's the bid, looks like aggressive selling, hopefully. If that was a limit buy, which it probably wasn't, might be a different story, but so I'm pressing sell on the hope that is a sell order. It's a massive contract compared to, so we've got thin volume here, followed by a massive order there on the bid side. So I'm hoping that was an aggressive sell, otherwise I'll be in a bit of strife here, but I've just sold. So we'll see if this is the point where we can come back all the way down to the previous day's high or the close. If we break above this point and we get past this 53 sell, then I'm not confident at all that we're going to turn around. But for now, it's looking okay. I'll probably try and get my stops in at break even just in case, because I do feel like the market is starting to get a bit bullish. And the DAX might have that sort of blind bullish nature about it at some point, particularly as we head into Christmas. But that was the exact activity that I was looking for. If that was on the ask side, followed by more bid activity, so aggressive selling, I'd have a bit more confidence, but that's a massive order. I'm hoping that that's going to push us in the direction that we need to go. So we'll just see how that pans out. So I'll pull up a chart on the DAX. So what have we got? Okay. Yeah, we had a massive pullback kind of earlier in the year, but then just a massive, really quick rally. And then it's been very kind of ranging since then. We haven't kind of had a particular direction since, sort of March. I'll just take that off. And this was last year though. So I'll just see if I can get it all in the one shot to show you. So from January 24 up to here, massive bullish run. Had a bit of a pullback kind of in the middle of the year, but just a massive run up. Whereas this year we had a pullback, quite a heavy pullback. This was when the tariffs were announced. Came right down to the yearly pivot. So these yearly levels come in handy. So what are we looking at? That was 120 points off that pivot, and then we just rallied for another 5,000 points for the next sort of few months. So that pivot could have made you, had a very good run out of that pivot point if you're watching these yearly levels. and the daily Bollinger Band combination. But obviously it's very scary getting in front of that kind of activity. But then after that rally, we got super high, and then we've stayed in this range for quite some time. So at some point, it's going to break this range. And if something happens, I guess economically, or some sort of situation says, okay, we're in trouble, this market, could have a similar reaction to what happened here. But obviously I'll be watching these yearly levels a lot more closely. We've got 14 contracts there, 45. I'm not sure what that is about. I'm just going to pull my trades into kind of a break-even situation. Just going to modify the order, change the stop loss to 23665. Just modify that and modify this other one. Just bear with me one moment. So on my FTMO, I'm just moving my stops to break even, simply because we've got that 45 contract there. That could indicate there's a big aggressive buyer in the market at this level. So I'll just go back to the 5 minute now. See what that actually is, but 47, somebody looks like they're kind of holding this level quite steadily. So I've got my stops in, I've got a few positions short. I do hope that we'll come down and perhaps get down to this high or close. I'm going to try and sit this one out, just stay in this trade and not close early, particularly because we've hit that R2 level. We've had the 53 contracts. We've only moved like a fraction just above that before selling off. The only thing that concerns me is this 47 contract on the ask side down the bottom, indicating a potential aggressive buyer. We've got some more aggressive buying coming in. So we really need the sellers to get involved and actually move the market now. Awesome, Tradovate. Best of luck with your trading, and we'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to pack it up now anyway, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.